Hi guys, welcome back aboard good old Athena. We're still here in Prickly Bay. Now this week it's time to take a break from the itchy fiberglass, see some of the island and take care of a couple of small projects. My name is Mess, this is my wife Ava. I've spent the last 5 years on a somewhat extensive refit of our 1987 Warrior 38 named Athena. That was a DIY fun-packed adventure complete with a very extensive osmosis treatment, building a new rudder using vacuum infusion, rebuilding the entire deck, gutting and subsequently rebuilding most of the interior, painting the topsides, and a ton of other projects. The summer of 2021 we started cruising full time. Now we're finally ready to begin our adventure. I said smaller projects, but of course a small project doesn't mean it's not important. In fact, we are in a dire situation that we need to fix immediately. One of our 12-volt fans, just like this one right here, is starting to fail. The culprit is hiding out in the corner over there. Now, as some of you might recall, back in Mindelo I installed super spiffy air conditioning from Dometic. But with our genset out of commission, I don't want to run the air conditioning because that'll put a ton of hours on our Volvo D240. And also we're still kind of holding on to the hope of acclimating to the climate here. The only bit of relief we get from the sweltering heat and humidity here is provided by these 12-volt fans. Now, I don't want to go as far as to say that they make it comfortable to be inside of the boat, but they do mean that you're not constantly just dripping sweat. We have 4 of these Hella fans aboard the boat. We have one here, one over on the other side of the saloon, and 2 in the forward on each side of the V-berth. I purchased these back in Europe and they were around 90 euros a piece. That's just shy of $100 per fan. So I'm pretty disappointed that one of them has already started failing. Before purchasing these horribly overpriced fans, I did do a tiny bit of research to see if I could find another cheaper alternative. One of the big brands that popped up was Caframo, I think that's how it's pronounced. But the thing is, these I could not find anywhere in Europe, so I kind of had to go with the Hella fans. It looks like Caframo makes a bunch of different models of fans. From what I've seen, the Ultimate 757 is kind of equal to the Hella fan. But these in the US are closer to, I think, $50, something like that, versus I think the Hella fan in the US is about 80. So these are a fair bit cheaper. And the chandlery here in Prickly Bay just so happened to have these. This being the Caribbean, of course, the fan here was a little bit more expensive than in the US. So this was 171 EC, which I think is like roughly 80 US dollars. I figured we might as well make some lemonade out of these lemons that are our broken Hella fan and do a bit of a comparison between the Hella fan and the Ultimate 757. But before we get to that, let's go explore the island for a little bit. We decided to rent a mighty steed in the shape of this Snoopy branded Mitsubishi to go explore the island in search of beautiful views and refreshing waterfalls. When I say Snoopy branded, I mean this car had Snoopy on the hood, Snoopy on the side, Snoopy on the doors, Snoopy on the seats, and of course Snoopy on the dash. Grenada is one of those countries that have chosen to abandon all common sense and chosen to drive on the left-hand side of the road. Zach was our designated driver for obvious reasons.
God, I'm so happy you're driving, Zach. I don't know, it's kind of fun driving this. I've never driven a Mitsubishi like this.
With our mighty steed parked at a bit of an angle, please note this as a prime example of foreshadowing, our first stop was at a local coffee place to procure important beverages for our adventure. With the morale gauge on full, we headed back out on the road and pointed the sat-nav towards the northernmost point in Grenada, heading for the Welcome Stone. Immediately upon leaving the city, we got our first glimpse at just how lush and green Grenada is. For someone from Denmark, which is flat as a pancake, this is incredibly beautiful. Snoopy was having some difficulties climbing the steep roads, but after putting her into low 4-wheel drive, we at least no longer felt like we were going to come to a grinding halt. On our way north, we decided to stop at a lookout and stretch our legs. The view was, of course, spectacular. I was, however, slightly underwhelmed by the pavilions that were a gift to Grenada from China. Note to self, don't buy gazebos from Alibaba. The 4 intrepid explorers pushed on further into the wilderness. Little did we or Snoopy know that we were about to encounter the biggest challenge of the day.
Oh,
Oh
my God. We'll give it a go. If I can't, I'll just have to back it back down.
It doesn't even come out on. Oh, they've put a rock under their tyre.
We got this.
What? We could always get out.
It's four-wheel drive. It should be able to do this. My foot's flat down.
I don't think we're gonna make it up the hill. Oh, it got a new lease alive. Everyone stop pedaling.
On. So close. No, someone's there. Come on. Come on.
You gotta push it to make it go.
Oh God, I hope.
Let's look out.
Oh, there's radar.
Oh, okay, there's people.
Ah.
So maybe.
Okay, I think we're almost there. Come on. This is ridiculous. My foot's just. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. My foot's flat.
Oh my God.
I'm not doing anything.
With Snoopy securely parked at the top of the Hill of Doom, we climbed the short distance up to Welcomestone and were greeted by yet more beautiful views. To lighten the load on Snoopy a little bit, three of us walked down the hill. That was, of course, the perfect opportunity to bust out the meter app on my iPhone and see exactly what kind of angle we'd been struggling to overcome. To be completely honest, it felt like more than 22 degrees, but then again, as previous mentioned, Denmark is flat as a pancake, so I might not be the best judge. We now entered the getting lost or misguided by the GPS portion of the day. We drove for a fairly long time through some luscious green jungle, heading towards a fairly popular waterfall. Eventually, however, the gravel road turned into a field and we had to turn around. Eventually, we did find the waterfall and were rewarded with a quick, refreshing swim. All in all, a 10 out of 10 day hanging out with Zach and Becca from Teddy. To sum up yesterday's adventure with Zach and Becca, we had a ton of fun and all four of us loved Snoopy. She may not be the most powerful vehicle on the road, but she was well maintained and clean. Now the place we rented Snoopy from was right here in the end of Prickly Bay, and the customer service there was a 10 out of 10. So if you ever come here, I'll include a link for that place down in the description. I've removed the temporary headliner up here to be able to replace the fan. Now this is not the one that's broken, but we would like to use the new fan over here. There's a very simple reason for that, and that's the fact that we think the new fan is going to be much easier to keep clean. This fan was mounted right next to our stove. Every time we were cooking, it would get a little bit greasy, and to clean it, you have to get into all of these nooks and crannies, and it's just a little bit difficult. This one, on the other hand, looks like it's much easier to wipe down. There's one thing about these fans that I wish both of the manufacturers would point out in their respective manuals, and that's cable management. On the Hella fan, I drilled a hole in this nut here to be able to run the cable up through the base. I could do that because the base is basically hollow, so it was fairly easy. And actually for the new fan, the base is also hollow, so if I drill a little hole here on the back, I can run the cable in through there. It would be nice if the manufacturers had already made those holes, or at the very least pointed out the option in the manual so that you don't end up with a cable that's just dangling next to the fan. I don't have any good way of measuring airflow for these, but I do have a face, so let's just give this a very unscientific test here. To me, it feels like there is slightly more airflow coming from the new fan. The new fan feels a little bit heavier than the old one, so I suspect it might be a slightly bigger motor in this guy. So let's see how much they each draw. The Hella fan comes in at around 0.26 amps, whereas the Ultimate 757 comes in at around 0.46-ish amps. So yeah, the new one's definitely using a bit more juice than the old one, but it's still a very low draw. That was with both of the fans on their high setting, but if you flip the new one into the low output mode, then it's sitting at around 0.3 amps. But yeah, when it's that low of a draw, I don't really think power consumption should be the driving factor in your fan choice. Of course, the guy that's currently sweating to death would say that more output, more cool, more better. But yeah, I think price is a much more deciding factor in these fans, and also just build quality. And it does feel like this is built nice and solidly, so yeah, we'll see how it lasts. I drilled the aforementioned hole and ran the cable through the base and installed the fan in the exact same spot as the old fan. Now that I'm sitting here in my usual spot, I can definitely feel that the new fan is moving a lot more air than the old one. All I have to do now is to swap out this guy for the broken one by the settee, but I won't bore you guys with that. I bought Athena to get our dinghy out of the water during the night and also during day jumps. We have a dinghy arch attached to our solar arch. This right here is our solar arch, and then on the aft end of that we have what I refer to as the dinghy arch. There's a line here on the starboard side of the solar arch that we use for raising and lowering the dinghy arch. It works really well, and as you can see, it is very simple. But even with our current dinghy and the electric outboard, it's a little bit on the heavy side when we go to raise the dinghy. This is our current dinghy. It's a Zodiac Cadet 270 aluminium rib. There are a couple of things we like about it. First off, it's fairly lightweight. That's awesome when we go to put it up on deck. And also, it's a rib, so when we pull it up on a beach, there's less of a chance of puncturing something. What we don't like so much is the fact that the aluminum bottom in there is slanted, so it's at an angle. There's no false floor in this dinghy as you see in a lot of other dinghies. They've obviously done that to save weight, but it also means that when you're stepping into the dinghy, you're always stepping into a slanted surface, and there's also always going to be water kicking around in the bottom. At some point, I think we would like to upgrade our dinghy to something with a flat floor so that we don't have that bit of water kicking around in the bottom, getting everything wet, and also so that we're stepping into a flat surface whenever we go into the dinghy. If at some point we decide to upgrade to a bigger dinghy, maybe with a big heavy gasoline outboard, it is a must that we can still use our dinghy arch to get the dinghy out of the water. For one, it's a lot easier to put it up there during day jumps, not up on deck, and also we can pull it up every night to limit growth. And also when it's up there, there's less of a chance of it getting stolen. Currently, I believe we have a 2-to-1 mechanical advantage using the blocks up here for the dinghy arch. Using a couple of triple and double blocks in a configuration like this, I think we can get a 4-to-1 mechanical advantage. There are a couple of things that are not ideal about this. For one, I couldn't find a triple block with a becket, so right now I'm just passing the bitter end through the block. I think the 4-to-1 setup here will work really well with our current dinghy. But the thing is, if we upgrade the dinghy and get a gasoline powered outboard, I think we're basically going to be doubling the weight, at least from the little bit of research I've done, in which case the 4-to-1 would then be the same weight as the 2-to-1 we've got today, and that is a little bit on the heavy side. I can do it, Ava can't, and it is a little bit of a struggle. I do have a plan to fix that. If I can find 3 more of these triple blocks, then I can convert the setup into a 6-to-1 mechanical advantage, meaning even the heavier dinghy and outboard should be easy to raise. So here things started going a little bit sideways. I noticed a lot of friction when I was trying to raise the dinghy. Now 2 of the blocks are plain bearing blocks, but I don't think that is the source of the friction. Upon taking a closer look, it seems like somehow the angles are a little bit wrong. I'm not getting a completely fair lead, and that's causing the line to ride up on the blocks on both sides of the dinghy arch. I think that is the source of the friction. I think if I can replace the 2 double blocks out there with slightly beefier double blocks, I might be able to overcome that issue. Unfortunately, the marine store here in Prickly Bay are fresh out of affordable double blocks. They have some from Harkin, but they're extremely expensive. For now, we will live with the added friction. It is still a little bit better than before because you're not holding the weight of the dinghy as much as you were before. But yeah, this is not really ideal. Other than the little friction issue, this does look very promising, and looking down here, there might actually be another solution for the friction. It might be hard to see on the video, but the attachment point out there is further outboard than this attachment point. That's causing a bit of an angle, and this block is slightly twisted, which I think that might be what's causing the line to ride up on the block. I'll see if I can get my hands on some slightly bigger blocks and see if that helps. But if you have any kind of suggestion as to what I should change here to have this setup be better, please go ahead and leave a comment down below. A couple of quick updates before ending this week's video. We still don't have a working genset. It seems like Fisher Panda are really dragging their feet on this warranty issue. I don't know why, but it's starting to be a little bit annoying. And in another update, we've gotten the quote back for the stainless swim platform we were considering adding to Athena. Unfortunately, that quote is a little bit on the high side, I think. So it's for 1,900 USD. And that would just be the frame. So we would install the wooden slats and provide the wood and do the installation of it. So the quote is just for the stainless frame. I think that's a little bit on the high side, and I'm kind of using that to gauge the cost of getting stainless work done here, because we have another few projects that we would like to get done. And unfortunately, I think the price level here in Grenada is just a little bit too high for us. From what we've heard, we can't really get stainless work done in Aruba, so now we're considering a quick jump down to Trinidad. But I think the first step is just to call around to some stainless places there and get an indication of cost. Anywho, we'll end this week's video here. We hope to see all of you guys back here aboard Athena next week for yet more cruising fun. As always, feel free to leave a comment down below, and don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video,
Please remember to leave a like.
see you!